through, and I wanted everybody to do better. Like, Deryck, no, don't give up, man. Come on. I would cry with you. I would, whatever, like, but we need to push through. And so when I took that job at the PD, I had this civil rights thing going, and I wanted to make people better. And I also wanted to make sure that I was doing my small role in making sure society was safer, right? It was like all these emotions. And when I got proper firearms training, that's when I kind of got the bug, right? Like I was the guy that was out there. A lot of people were just calling, right? Like, hey, shoot the thing. It's cool. Like, shoot the thing. And I'm like, but why did it go bang? Right? Like seriously, like why? I literally asked that question. Like, how did this thing go bang? Why is this one shaped differently than that one? This is revolver or semi-automatic, right? But this is how green I was. I'm like, why is that one shaped different than this one? Well, who made this one? How long has this design been around? I'm that guy. Like, why are we standing like that? And I'm asking it in such a curious mode that the instructors, you go from like being seriously annoyed, like if you don't just call and shut up, to kid really wants to know, right? And so had a couple of guys take me up under their wings and really started teaching me the gun, right? The way of the gun, the art of the gun. Some of the education now is antiquated, obviously, but that's why we continuously to go back and forth. But I really appreciate those guys for bringing me in and kind of developing me, and even in the art form of how to be a communicator, which was natural for me because I've been coaching people since a young age about how to be better, how to do things, right? This is just more technical, if you will. So I just really fell in love with it. But where no other choice came from is that I had to deal with walking monsters. Part of my job was that. Right? It's like I am dealing with the people you see on the news that just rape, was a serial rapist. Like I'm dealing with the people that are cold-blooded murderers. These are the people I'm interacting with on a daily basis. So there's a flip side of that, though. There are also very good people that just made bad decisions, right? Like I tell people all the time, like self-defense is anything but common sense. And a lot of people think that it's, oh, if you punch me in the face, I can shoot you or stab you. And it's like, no, you can't, right? So a lot of nuance there that we have to discuss. So I would see, man, I would see moms, dads, uncles, brothers, loved ones, whatever, like literally trying to punch their way and fight their way through bulletproof glass to get to their loved ones who thought they did something that was right because they felt it was right. But now all of a sudden I'm looking at a family be destroyed firsthand because mom did the wrong thing. Now, mom might not come back outside for 10 or 15 years, And I was like, we have to do something about this balance and misinformation and education that is out there, right? Or providing proper education. So I was sitting there one day and I was like, like I've seen hundreds, if not thousands of people at this point. And I was like, we have to change the mentality of what we're going to do when it comes to properly educating people. So I was like, hey, you should have no other choice. Bingo. Right? Like no other choice. So no other choice. Our philosophy is this. You should never cause a negative impact to a human being unless you are left with no other choice, right? Extend God's grace and mercy to others as you will want extended to you, right? As long as you are not allowing yourself or another human being to be hurt in the process. It doesn't mean that you're not prepared to defend yourself. It doesn't mean that you won't do it if needed, but it does mean that you are looking for any out you can get, right? Like even if you deserve it. And I often tell people, like, take my experience off the table. If I hadn't seen thousands of people, because it's real easy for people out there in the world to be like, oh man, I know this. Like, hey, that's why we have subject matter experts. Take it from me, a guy that's watched thousands of people, like the soul drain out of them because they made the wrong decision. Seeing how a really, really tough person on the street goes to a kitten when I close the door on them. Seeing grown men that were like this bad Billy on the street, and all of a sudden I'm putting him on suicide watch because he wants to kill himself, right? Because reality starts to set in. So that's why I teach that mentality. And I just started off with, hey, this is how you safely handle a gun. I wasn't out there like trying to, show everybody. And then I got a natural act for teaching and understanding the gun. And 3 or 4 years in, was like, hey, take us out, man. And then it turned into a lot of individuals that were going to go to the academy were like, hey, I need some, unofficial training. I just want to be better when I actually go in there. I don't want to fail the academy because I can't shoot, right? So getting out there with those guys and girls and then start helping my community members. And it was really my friends that forced me out there, and they word of mouth was spread, and they just appreciated the way that I brought a different aspect to things. So I just started training, and I realized during that, all the civil rights work I had been doing, it hit me. It was really an epiphany. I was like, you know what? Once I learned guns and properly, I knew what the Second Amendment was, like really learned it. I'm like, training. I just want to be better. Oh, crap. That is me because there are two of me. You don't know that, though. But there was this epiphany that I had. I was standing there, I'll never forget, I was talking to one of my buddies, and we were standing down at the PD, and it just hit. It's like, you know what could have at least helped, if not eliminated, but at least helped a lot of these situations that I refer to, like Black Wall Street, or Rosewood, Florida, and all these situations that we're talking about when we're talking about our civil rights and maintaining them in this country, even back to the Underground Railroad and things like that. It's like either lack of or no guns, right? And then that's where the history of gun control, I got addicted to it. I'm like, oh, factually, this thing really started off as something that was racial, like legit in its roots. So I decided to couple everything that I do. So there's a community outreach program that I call Aiming for the Truth, and then there's the firearms portion of what I do, and then there's the advocacy portion of what I do along. And I put the advocacy and the civil rights in the same bubble because we're out there fighting for equal rights for everyone. But I'm not going to be shy about speaking my voice about what people that look like me have experienced when it comes to these firearms and gun control things in the country. So I know that was a long explanation, but that's who I am. So I'm multifaceted. I'm continuously learning and evolving and growing just like everybody else. But I want good people to stay alive, and I want them to go home, because it's a humbling experience, man. And it kind of yanks your soul out when you are looking at that dad that was really a good person. And he's not a bad person now, but he did a thing. And it's like, oh man, the law doesn't agree with the thing you did, right? And now we have to look at your family, be destroyed, and there's nothing we can do about it. Like, you're left helpless because we made a rash decision. So that's why I like to teach that philosophy. So.
Awesome. Oh man. Some of y'all are just started joining here a couple of minutes ago. We ran into some technical issues with getting the streams out in every direction, but hopefully everybody can tune in correctly now. But again, we're welcoming Keven Dixie. Keven Dixie he's a recent join to the Personal Defense Network as a contributor.
Yeah.
And obviously we've been out here today doing all the product videos. Tonight's show is brought to you and made possible completely by Primary Arms online store. Deryck, you've been involved with the store a good bit in the past 24 hours with that. Yeah. Why don't you tell everybody about what that is?
Primary Arms, they are a website that is like a one-stop shop website. They have a great website layout, which I went through today during our live event, and they got guns, parts. If you're looking to build, if you're looking to just get some concealed carry gear or something to take for the range, and need a new range bag, something like that, they have everything out there. So go out there, sign up for their list. I was messing with the website today. You sign up for their email list, and you get a $12 off coupon to use for your first purchase at the website.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've got the website pulled up now. See if I can maybe able to tie it into the stream. We'll try to come back to that here in a couple of minutes to give you a picture of what everything looks like. But yeah, it's a great store. And as mentioned, throw in the email address right there on the front page when it pops up, and instantly get a coupon emailed to you in the mail. And I know that I did the same thing earlier. But yes, they are sponsoring the show tonight. So everything's made possible with them. Thank you, Primary Arms Online, for that.
Yeah, and they actually do have like good personal defense handguns actually available and at reasonable prices. So I don't think you have to go to the firearms auction sites and spend way too much.
Yeah, it sounded like you were adding stuff to your cart just earlier today.
Yeah, sure. I had to really test it.
Well, awesome. Keven, man, just recently you wrote an article for PDN.
Yes.
Now, what was that article?
We talked about situational awareness and, how to really be prepared to utilize it, right? And that was the mindset of it. So I think that you want to go into it?
Yeah, we'll talk about it.
When it comes to situational awareness, I know a lot of times, in the self-defense community, we discuss it in various ways. And I'm not saying either way. Sometimes it gets really sciencey, and sometimes it's really, really like, hey, low-level layman, if you will. And I always just had my own experience with it. And we can get into, hey, at this distance, this person is considered a threat. Hey, you should be watching these people. And all that stuff is valid. What I want people to realize is some of the things that we miss, right? So and I covered it in an article. So let's take a family getting inside of a vehicle, right? And I think this is a part that a lot of people miss. So let's just say this family is a mom, a dad, and 2 kids, right? But the kids are old enough to walk on their own. Let's make them 10, right? 10-year-old twins. Let's just do that thing. And you walk up to the car, right? And a lot of people will unlock the car, unchirp the car. Now you just walk up to your car and grab the door handle. That's cool. And you sit in your car, right? And you get in the car. Everything is good. People might start slapping on their seat belts. You want to make sure the temperature's regulated in the car perfectly, right? And then it's like, you might be Googling what's the next place we're going to. You have to get the radio right. You don't want to have that inappropriate music on with the kids in the car. So you got to put on the kids bop. You got to do all that great stuff. So what are we into? I don't know, a minute? We're fidgeting around in this car, and that is a minute we haven't been looking at our surroundings. So in that, I even covered what I would like for people to start doing is, doesn't matter who you are. If you are the person that is armed or the person that is to go to, maybe everybody's armed. That's a great world, right? But maybe you're the person that's to go to, right? The driver, the one that's in control of everyone's self-defense. Then I want you to stay out the vehicle, right? I want you to stay out of the vehicle. I want you to stand up and move your head around, move your body around. You don't have to look like the crazy person to people walking through the parking lot, but moving. You're watching for things going on. Wow, the people inside the vehicle are putting on those seatbelts, right? While they are doing those minor adjustments. You should not get in the vehicle until everyone in the vehicle is safely ready to travel. Then when you get in the vehicle, it's literally in the vehicle, seatbelt, drive. There is no such thing as I'm going to start tuning the radio. I'm going to search my phone. Those things can wait till you get to a different destination. Maybe you get home. Obviously, I'm not going to recommend you do anything unsafe on the road, but things like that can eliminate that threat, right? Getting close to you, because we always talk about using the minimum force necessary, right? Well, let me tell you what, making eye contact is a pretty good way to make somebody say, oh, you're not a soft target, right? I'm not saying this is going to save you, but if somebody's looking for a weak target, which many times they're looking for the unsuspected, the people that are, condition white, right, as we say it. So, yeah, right? You don't want to look like that. Another thing is when you're parking your vehicle, right? We want to make sure that we are using our environment to our advantage. Now, you're not going to be able to control this because maybe somebody brings a different vehicle into a situation while you're in a mall or whatever. But when you park your vehicle, if you're in a sedan, for example, hey guys, don't park next to SUVs. Don't park between two minivans. Why? Because you can't see what might be hiding in those dark places, right? And then you have to make sure you're sweeping out to certain angles. But if you weren't conscious of where you're going to park, you're probably not going to separate yourself from the barriers or the places you can't see, to make sure that your peripheral vision can aid you in using a 110-degree view that you have just by walking straight. You're probably not going to use that properly. So let's make sure that we park safely. Remember where you park. How many times have you went to an event, they're like, I don't know what deck I parked on. What happens? You get in the garage and you're like walking around with this chirpy thing and you're trying to figure out like, where is the car, right? No, take a mental note. Hey, I'm on level E, section 4, and make that habit. What I will do is when I get into the event, before I forget, I'll text it to myself. And then before I leave, I'll look at it on my phone. All right, cool. Phone's down. I know I'm going to, this level, this section. That's where I'm going. So you're not wandering around, because if you're wandering around chirping things, then you're going to bring attention to yourself. You're lost. You're distracted. You're focused on finding something. And so you're not watching the Deryck coming out of the corner. And,
I got to be a bad guy.
Well,
look at you.
Come on, man. Come on, man, really. So just that kind of stuff, and those simple tips that are like, hey, this is something you can start incorporating immediately, and this is just things you should do. So different things like that, paying attention to your surroundings and making sure that you are preparing to have the advantage when it comes to using your situational awareness, right? We don't have to stress it out. So I covered that and went over a few more examples in the article, because I wanted people to be able to think about, how can I really use preparation to aid my situational awareness? Set it up before you're in it, right? So when I come out, I have the advantage, and the bad guy or the potential bad guy is at a disadvantage. So that's what I covered.
Like I travel a lot, right? Right. Every time I go to an airport, take a picture of my car and one of the marker signs. So, because when you go out of town for 3 or 4 days, you're like, oh, I'll never forget where I parked my car. Right. I'll be so happy to get home. And one time, years ago, I came home and I'd actually given my wife a brand new car to the airport. I was only going to be gone for 2 days. I swore I parked on like deck 2, aisle 4. Couldn't find her car anywhere, and then panicked, thought it got stolen, thought the brand new car got stolen. And then I started doing the chirpy, and now I'm like starting to panic. Since that day, I just started I get out of the car, turn around, find the sign, bang, with my car in the picture.
Yeah. Yep.
And then when I land and I'm waiting for my bag, I'll pull up this picture and I'm like, all right, I know exactly where I got to go once I grab the bag and go rolling out of the airport.
Yeah. Another thing I'll tell people to do too, speaking of like being with someone, hey, I use spouse a lot, so please forgive me, but whoever you're with, right? Like, especially with parking garages in particular, because of the echo, because of the, the audio in there, stop talking when you're going somewhere. Get out the car, go to where you're going. right? And especially when you're returning. So let's set this scenario up. Let's say it's 2 a.m. You went to a dance. It's 2 a.m. Car's in the garage. Cool. You're going to walk out and you had a great time, right? But you know where your car is at. So you took the picture. You know it. Cool. We're going to this spot, right? And we're going to get in this echoey place. And we're going to laugh and we're going to joke. Well, now you're telling a dude that's 200 yards that direction, you're over here. 75 yards that direction, where you're at, right? And you are alerting them to the fact that you're distracted because of your conversation, right? And because of your enjoyment. Just go to the car. Get in the car, leave the area, and laugh on your way out, right? Like, be in the vehicle, pay attention to that. And it seems silly. It seems like, oh man, you're taking out joy out of the situation. Well, I would much rather you wait 2 minutes and laugh and enjoy yourself when you get in the vehicle than deal with a lifetime of issues because you ran into an unfortunate situation. So just those small things that can help people immediately, right? Like immediately they can start increasing their chances of using preparation to set up situational awareness, so they have more of an advantage if something does happen because they prepared, they set the environment up to be a benefit to them, right? Even if the bad guy does have the element of surprise or whatever, you're right, you still set it up to where this situation is advantageous to me, even if I notice it and I'm like, nope, I don't like the way that looks and I'm going back in this place, right? So,
well, when I was reading your article, the funny thing is, at the end of our classes, we do we have some sort of evaluation drill or simulation. And then when I was reading it, I was actually thinking of our concealed carry simulation that we actually run, which is the simulation is two people coming off of an elevator going into a parking garage. Oh. So when I was reading your article, I was like, wait a minute.
Great minds, right? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I just think those kind of things are important. And look, I mean, I love the pew pew bang bang things, right? They're cool, right? We've been having discussions about that all day. That is great. It is awesome. And those discussions need to be had. And sometimes I also think that we leave a void. And I think things like the articles, why I wrote it, these are the things that sometimes we avoid because the pew pew bang bang things are awesome. But this thing up here is great if you can utilize it, just to stay out of the situations, because realistically, man, I don't want to see people in situations, even if they win. I just rather you not be in it, if we can avoid it.
And when you look at self-defense shootings or you look at self-defense incidents over the years, I mean, there's so many examples where, yes, 100% legally that was completely justified, but it's also didn't have to happen, right? Yeah. And part of that is the decision being made up to it. And kind of going back to where you even talk about in your introduction and how you built your company and the motto of the company of no other choice, right? Which, when you're doing things to try to pay attention, trying to not be distracted, putting those different things in place to make sure that you are hopefully able to come up with some information that says, hey, maybe I should turn around and go back in, right? But we always kind of talk about with awareness, a lot of it allows us to be deselected. And meaning you went back to the soft targets or hard targets, right? And somebody sees that you're someone who actually they're not going to be able to surprise nearly as well, or you're someone who looks like they maybe carry themselves differently, that you may put up that fight, you may be able to protect yourself, those kinds of things. Well, then, yeah, more often than not, they're going to go find the easier target. Because the bad guys, they're just like we are in the sense that it's risk versus reward. There's a reward that they're after, and how much risk are they willing to take on with it? So when we're doing our part to make good decisions, and if you are someone that is paying attention to those other types of things as you're moving through life, then that you're increasing the risk, for that individual.
Absolutely. I often, it's funny you say that. So in my class, I tell people all the time, right, when it comes to like moving with confidence, and just being sure of self. And I'll ask them like, yeah, how many of you guys have actually stood in an open space with no barriers in between you with a lion, right? Like, how many times? I've like, never done that, right? I don't mean a zoo. I mean, like, it's just like 25 yards, you and that big cat. Like, how often have you done it, right? And it's like, yeah, I'm like, but what would happen if that happened? Even though you've never had an experience, what would happen? You're like, I run like heck, right? Like, yeah, absolutely you will, right? You'll do whatever you got to do to survive. And I'm like, yeah, that's what I want you to be. I want you to be that lion in this situation, right? To when he sees you, he's like, I don't even know exactly what you are, but it's something about what you're giving off that you are dominant, right? And maybe I don't want to be tested, to your point, right? So walk with the confidence of a lion. Like, yeah, they maybe never encountered somebody like you, but they realize whatever that is, it's a threat because everything that they're giving me, all the energy, all the language, the body language, everything they're giving me says they're a threat. And even though a big cat's never attacked you, and tigers and lions are bothersome to me. Okay, I watch Tiger King. Let me just tell you, I didn't even know so many of them things lived in our country. Like 5,000 or something of them. It's weird, but you've never seen one. Just like the bad guys never seen somebody move with the confidence you move with, but yet they're going to realize like whatever that is, it is a threat. So be that lion.
Let's see.
You're going through some questions over there.
Yeah. Where can we buy 1,000 rounds of 9mm for
Share it with me.
Yeah. Right. You find out, let me know.
Well, you can go to primaryarmsonline.com and sign up for the wait list, and they will notify you when that comes in.
True fact.
There you go. There you go.
Let's see. Keep going through. Any suggestions for realistic defensive training during the pandemic? Funny you should ask, Felix. We're just getting ready to kick off the 2021 PDN Training Tour. Head over to PDN, check out the calendar, and look to find something in your area. It is happening. We are here in Ancient City for
Saturday.
a week.
Yeah, we're here.
Starting
yesterday.
Yeah, no, I'm talking about the actual training classes are kicking off.
So Saturday.
Yep. So if you're anywhere near St. Augustine, Florida, sure get you in a class.
And not just that, but it's obviously we're paying attention. We know that it's hard to get ammunition as instructors, as coaches, right? And so, we're not going to sit there and ask you to bring 3,000 rounds to a one-day class, and we're going to sit there and press the triggers the whole time, right? We talk a lot about how what's most important, for the students taking away that course is the understanding of the material, the understanding of the concepts, understanding of the principles, and understanding the basics of how to go out and be able to practice the stuff that they learned in the course. And so what does that mean? Well, typically speaking, when we get into situations like this, we are going to be heavier on lecture information, on the conceptual information. We're going to be able to go deeper layers so you have a better understanding of that type of material, where the round count will come down a little bit more. So I think that, if I said on average, somebody coming into one of my one-day defensive handguns courses, probably, is about 450 rounds in a one-day class. Some people may press the trigger a little bit faster. Some are going to be a little bit lower than that. But I would say that, easily in a one-day course, that round count's going to come down some for me. It's not going to be going up right now. It's not going to be staying the same. It's going to be coming down some to give you the opportunity to still come learn, but also try to keep the cost down on things like ammunition as much as possible. I'm sure you're doing the same thing.
Absolutely. Yeah, and it was like what Kevin said, right? Like what you learn and take with you is how you continue to get better once you've left the class and continue to improve and get better. It's the pew, the shooting is the fun part.
Yep.
Right?
That's a reward, man.
You're right.
If you can't find ammunition right now, hey, maybe it's a great time to go out and take a medical class. If you haven't done that, if you haven't jumped into something like that, there's great opportunities, to be able to do so.
Let's see. Bruce asked, do you recommend airsoft type products for my own house training? I own a spring operated clone of my defensive pistol that is such a lookalike that I recheck it 10 times before use. It's no good on accuracy over 10 feet, but my office is not larger than that either.
It's. I guess I'll talk about my opinion on this, and y'all can certainly do the same.
You're our RBT guy.
If we're talking about tactics, you're talking about running through scenarios or running through simulations and all that. Airsoft can be fantastic for all of it. If you're talking about developing the skills of defensive shooting, well, you're lacking recoil. It's got a spring, right? I've got them, and I get it. They're so real that, I show them anytime I'm even teaching with families or young kids on the differences in appearance of a real gun and a fake gun, right? So they look the same, especially if the orange tip comes off. They look the same sitting next to one another. But just because they look the same doesn't mean they're going to operate the same. And I believe that part of building defensive shooting skills is recoil and really true recoil management, as well as the sound of it. Is that's going to be a part of it, getting the correct stimulus so that you can respond in the correct way to things like reaching what slide lock truly feels like on that. And so I think that while there are some things that we can do with the airsoft guns or with other firearms capable of non-lethal training ammunition, or a banana, or a blue gun, or any of that kind of stuff, but when it comes to getting better at the defensive shooting skills, I think you really have to get out and use the real firearm in that sort of incident.
Yep, I totally agree with that.
I agree. I think they're great for theory, right? And just having something, but you're not going to get the experience unless you get out to the range. So yeah, man, awesome.
All right, and then this one from Robert. Continuously looking for ideas for defense. I'm elderly, bad knees, and 80% of the time in a wheelchair. I have received both vaccine shots and looking to venture out, but so are non-desirables. In Maryland, my old hometown,
I was like,
my old home state, so CCW is not happening. Best I'm coming up with is heavy wooden cane and pepper spray. Both seem limited, but it is a reality in Maryland. Ideas for tools. Both of those are great tools, and there's actually great resource videos at PDN covering cane defense as well as a bunch of pepper spray. So once this feed ends, I will reply to you with the links to training information on both of those, and both of those are great options.
Yeah, and with the website, obviously, I think it's probably the largest resource of free material available when it comes to personal defense information. But with the premium membership, there's usually a small annual fee. There's a tremendous amount of premium videos available and full DVD link. And I think that there's DVD link videos on self-defense with a cane, if I remember correctly.
Yep, that is absolutely.
And, so that's definitely in there. Same thing with the medical course, right? If you don't have an opportunity around you because you don't have instructors that are teaching it, or because that but for your own personal health, you made the decision that you're not comfortable getting into that sort of environment with other people right now. Awesome. That's a great opportunity for the e-learning lessons on this sort of material. And so we'll drop the links on that, as well for those that have an interest in it.
And that has a lot of good comments, but that has caught us up on all the questions so far.
Awesome. Well, if y'all have questions for any of us or for what we're covering tonight, be sure to drop it in. We're trying our best to make sure we pay attention to it, and we'll address what we can address. Yeah, I'm not a big believer in what does that person carry and trying to really, try to mimic that individual, right? And, Kevin, we've done several shows. In fact, we just did a show, kind of a roundtable in December. I think we had 4 or 5 instructors and people serious about personal defense on the table, where we kind of went through with our carry gear. And what we found is you found a lot of different brands, whether we were talking about a knife or you're talking about a holster or you're talking about a firearm. I think that probably across the board, if I remember correctly, I think most of us, if not everybody, was carrying 9mm. But in regards to you have to go after this brand, we're not really big believers in that, right? I think that we personally recommend choosing modern striker-fired semi-autos for the benefits that we've talked about in previous shows. And so we talk about a category, right? But then the person needs to go to the store. They need to hopefully get an opportunity to shoot them, at least to put them in their hands, and which ones are the ergonomics going to work best for that individual. Mm-hmm. But so I'm not a big believer in you copy what I'm doing or copy what Deryck or KD is doing. But people generally, they want to know. So I'll kind of throw that out to you. Okay. What's your go-to gun that you carry?
So my go-to gun is my signature gun called the Truth. So the Truth is a remand HKVP9, and it's my signature gun with my spin on it, done in cooperation with J&L Machining, Wayne Hammer, and Carolina Custom Foam, and it's a whole thing. It's like it takes me like 45 minutes in a short to explain it. First guns in history to fight gun control, by the way, but I like to talk and explain things. It's kind of like who I am. So
I found somebody that actually talks more than I do, I
think. And you know what? That's even a thing, right? I for so long, man, I did not enjoy human interaction. and it was always a conflict whenever I would talk to people because of my environment. Like it was always fighting. Now I'm like in a space, like part of my enjoyment of life, and this is just a life thing. Part of my enjoyment of life, even though I'm a natural introvert, believe it or not.
Me too.
Part of my enjoyment of life is actually enjoying the fact that I've learned to agree to disagree. I've learned how to handle better conflict. I've learned that I can like look at you and I don't have to punch you. Like this is awesome, right? Like we can. So I live in discussion and communication. It's great. But I do carry the truth. I would highly advise anybody. You can just throw it in Keven Dixie, the truth on YouTube. It'll come up. There are tons of videos out there. Even me and Rob Pincus did one, for the network. It was great. It's a great conversation piece.
That's
but
when I met you. You did that at the Gun Rights Policy Conference in Arizona, did you not?
Yes, I believe we did it in a breakout room there.
Yep.
And he was adamant. Like he was like, yo, you, me, camera, room, now. Right. So, and it was good. Right. I was glad to see his enthusiasm to want to make sure he got the word out there. So I appreciated that. But now let's get to the choice. And I'm biased, right? It's mine. Like, why would I design something and I'm like, I'm not going to carry? But that doesn't matter when we're having a conversation with other people. One, maybe it's not the right size for you. Not making them compact and full, but maybe it's just not the right gun for you for whatever reason. One, the price point. It's a custom piece, right? It's not going to be your $300, $400, $500 firearm, right? And so I have to take people's income into account. Absolutely. So I'm saying that because if any one of us has a custom gun or a tricked out gun and we're not pushing that upon people, if we have a vested interest, then why should anybody else, right? You have to learn how to eliminate your bias and what you like to say, hey, I don't know, like when we do our entry-level concealed carry courses, one of the questions you always get, right, is what gun do I buy, right? I'm excited. I'm like, great, I'm glad to see you excited. So we go and I'm listening to the person, like, what's your POU, philosophy of use? Like, what are you gonna use this gun for? So I start off with this. I'm like, hey, so I get a lot of people say, I just want to keep it in my house to make sure my home is protected. That is all I want it for. And then my question is, okay, but what might you use it for? Never buy a gun for today or tomorrow. Buy a gun for 5 or 10 years in the future. And I get this kind of look. I'm like, well, all right, let's think about it just from the consumer aspect, because there's another aspect to it, but the consumer aspect. Might you want to go out and take one of those classes that maybe you've seen on PDN Network? Maybe you've seen another YouTube video. You're like, oh, that on the range training is really cool. I might want to do that. Well, how about, but we find a gun that does both, because why are you wanting to do that? If it's only to defend your house, well, I might want to carry it one day. Aha, absolutely. But is that gun that you're going to buy just to defend your house something that you can actually carry or you want to carry, right? So why not help you research something that can grow with you? So when you get to it's great for the house, but this thing sucks to try to carry on my body. Well, if we would have addressed that 3 years ago, you would have a firearm that can do everything with you, right? So we're not pricing you out. I would much rather you spend that additional $600 come to get more training than I would you trying to now go find another gun that fits that, right? So having those kind of conversations, and also leaving people with options. I'll always tell people like, hey, okay, what's your budget? I always start there. Like, what's your budget? Philosophy of use budget. And I look at the person, right? And let them know, like, this thing is kind of custom tailored to you. I'll give everybody 3 recommendations based off them. These are my recommendations for you. And if I'm available, I'll go shopping with you, right? I try to make it a personal experience. But this is why I'm telling you that these guns work for you. And we can go from there. It's a good starting point. And let them choose and help them walk through, the whys and things like that. So it's really, really personal. Like, there's not one car for everybody, right? There's not one pickup truck for all the truck guys. I think people and everybody wants to be able to answer that question with knowledge and saying that they are the local experts. So if somebody's asking you, that means that they view you as somebody that's a SME or somebody that's very educated on that, even though you just kind of have guns for a hobby, right? So what do you immediately do? You throw your bias in. Well, this manufacturer is the best thing in the world. I will never own anything else. It's like, but is that really the truth? Right. So just leaving people with that freedom, leaving them with options. And I want them to be excited. I want them to feel like they have choices, because here's the thing. If you give someone, and this is just a basic sales technique, if you give someone enough information, enough guidance to where they feel like they are making the ultimate decision, right, and an educated one, then buyer's remorse is really going to be nil. If you are telling them what to buy, the first time they run into a problem, even if it's fixable, they're going to be like, it's the worst decision ever, right? Like, why do I have this thing, right? So I want them to have the confidence that they made that decision. I was just there helping coax and guide them and ask the questions. But whether it's and can you get to the point to where something is just absolutely bad? Sure. Right? Yeah, absolutely. Like, Hey, that thing's just bad. That's why I'm telling you not to buy it. But I'm not just going to say it's bad. I'm like, it's bad for like, I'm going to go through the gauntlet of reasons why no, that's not an option because you want to live, right? So we're not going to choose that thing, right? But the knife, the spray, the gun, the widget, the gadgets, like if they're quality, we start there and we walk people down a line based off them. Make it a personal experience. Remove yourself from it, right? Make it a personal experience and let people enjoy the moment of shopping for that gun or that self-defense tool that they're going to use. So I just want people to feel free in the making the choices, and I'm just there to coach them. That's it.
And, you know, somebody gets a good choice that they like, that they pick, that fits their hand, that's a good defensive choice, they're going to naturally want to train with it more.
Yes.
You know?
True fact.
I owned a brick and mortar shop for a while, actual gun store. And I can't tell you the number of times people will come in and say, my so-and-so significant other needs a revolver. Where's your significant other? I don't see anybody with you, you know? But yeah, definitely. Right. We cover similar, you know.
My wife, love her to death. Hey, honey. My wife told me, now this, you guys enjoy this. She told me what gun she was going to get. Right. I was just happy that she wanted one. I'm like, all right. So I'm gonna let you. She told me she had to have a revolver, and the one she picked out was a 642. Right. You know, she had to have this thing. I'm like, okay. I'm like, you're not gonna like it. As soon as you feel that pressure in your hand, that thud, you're not gonna like it. Light gun, you're gonna feel like whatever. Like she's like, nope. I want, if you want me to carry a gun, this is what you're gonna get me. I'm like, all right, cool. No problem. You're telling me. No problem. Another reason we have a gun in the house. Okay. So we go out and buy it, right? And she's like, no. And this is loading a cylinder, getting on the range, pressed one shot and cringed, regrouped, pressed another shot, and then like muscled her way through it, opened the cylinder, laid the firearm down and sat down on the bench. And she didn't talk to me for like 10, 15 minutes. So I'm just up there shooting the gun. I'm just having a good time. Look back at him. You ready to talk? She's like, no. So I'm like, all right, cool. So she's like, I don't ever want to shoot that gun again. It's like, I told you that, but I got another gun, so cool. All right, so I throw it in the safe, and I'm like, well, you're going to tell me what you want next? She's like, yeah, I'm absolutely certain what I want next, and you can't tell me anything about it. I'm like, all right. So we go out, we take some friends to the range, and we leave. We're passing a gun store, and then, you know, I got a car full of friends like, hey, I want to go in a gun store now. Well, what gun guy doesn't like hearing that, right? So yes, let's go in this local gun store. Gun store. There's a purple, which is our favorite color, purple and black Ruger SR22. That's the gun. Buy that for me now. I'm in the back of my mind like, you know what?
Another
Great.
gun in the house.
Another gun in the house, right? And great. This is 22. Great training tool, right? Awesome. Because you're going to enjoy it, but you're not going to want to keep it, right? Cool. Get it. 2 months later. Don't you think I should have something that has a bigger bullet, you know, to like stop something if something happens? Oh, yeah, that's what I would have thought. But I'm like, all right, but you told me, honey. And so the point is, we have to, even though it's my wife, I'm still not making her make a choice. I'm allowing her to go through the freedom, and she's choosing not to listen to me. I'm the guy that's like sitting in the next room doing Instagram live videos, like talking about this stuff, and she's like, nope, I know better. Cool, whatever, right? And then when she finally got to the point, it's like, okay, honey, you coached me about what you think is best. And I still walked her through the process. I just was able to use her experience to say, okay, this is why, right? And this is why. You know how you have that experience? Doesn't that tie in and make sense? Yes. I said, okay. So based off of that, here's the avenue I would like for you to be in. This is the one I like best for you. This is the reason why. And here are a couple other options. She went with a Glock 42. That was when they first came out. You can't pry that thing from our hands. All right. So be patient, walk through with people, right? Because sometimes, and I'm saying it to say sometimes even they're not going to want to listen to. They're going to want to make their own decisions. Or some people are going to come in and they're going to, every word you say, they're going to, you know, gravitate toward it and take it in kind. So you need to be responsible with both angles, right? We don't yell at people because they're not listening to us because, hey, buy this brand. No, I'm going to buy this brand because I like the insignia better. Screw you. I'm going to do that. Or, hey, you probably should, you know, slow down and not make these rash decisions. They're going to do it anyway. So I just think it's so much nuance, man, that you have to allow people to either live in the suck, as they say, or listen to your advice and coach them through.
So she's 22. 22 is another popular topic. You know, what about training with the 22 for personal defense during these ammo crunch times?
probably the biggest downside is leaving the range with a misrepresentation or a misunderstanding of what you're capable of when it comes to recoil management, because you're not going to have the same felt recoil out of 22 long rifle as you will with your 9mm, right? And so that's what I think that we've got to be extremely cautious with. So it's not that I'm against it, right? But I think we have to be extremely cautious of building false confidence with one thing and then turning around and carrying something very separately, where we have trained our brain to think that we're now capable of pressing the trigger so fast with your training gun, but yet you're not going to be able to duplicate that, which would mean potentially opening up rounds, opening up groups, lost shots, missed shots, in a defensive situation.
If somebody wants to bring the 22, I always tell them I prefer that it's the 22 that is the same manual of arms of your personal defense gun, and I still want you to bring your actual personal defense gun with that personal defense round. We can work in the 22 so you get more reps, but ultimately we want to get you as much time as possible with that actual defensive gun, so that recoil management, that overconfidence doesn't really have a chance to become a thing.
Yeah, and we kind of we treat it in the same way with someone who has the Glock 43 subcompact 9mm. Should they train with that or the Glock 17? Well, if they're first learning how to do these skills, it's going to be easier for them to do it with a full-size firearm, where they're going to have more real estate to get the hand, where you're going to have less felt recoil with it. So we can learn on that and then go back and practice later on the smaller firearm. I think the same thing can be said with 22 long rifle. Is in regards to learning the skill, you can certainly learn on that, but you're going to need to develop it and practice it in more of that realistic setting with your true defensive firearm.
Perfectly said. See, look, I have nothing to
add. All right, here we go. Where was it? I saw a question mark goes flying by my screen. Where'd it go? I'm pretty sure it said thoughts on using a Cert for training.
And that really kind of goes back into what we talked about, with the airsoft in regards to if I'm, teaching something like the concept of, concealing our body behind a wall or trying to get behind a piece of cover. Well, we can talk about that conceptually with a Cert firearm, like the same way that we could with a banana or something like that. But with the Cert, although it's a great tool for those kind of demonstrations or talking about tactics, we don't actually have the slide moving back and forth on it. They've done really great things with the triggers over the years with them, but it's still not going to be true one-to-one with it. We're still not going to have the felt recoil with it. So there are times that I'll use those types of tools more in a teaching role, I guess, and less in any sort of development role with it. And Katie, you may have something different on this. When I think about using a laser tool like that, or I kind of put it in the same category with dry fire practice. If someone is practicing without ammunition in the gun, or they're using the laser tool, if they have not learned it and developed it to where they're doing everything correctly, well, I think that they could be setting themselves up for failure in such a way that, again, no recoil management, no noise that goes along with it. So although they may be able to hit the target with the laser that's standing out there in front of them on a piece of paper, that doesn't mean they're actually getting better at the defensive shooting skills, with that. And so I think that if we talked at a high level of skill development, if somebody was already doing it completely 100% correctly, then I guess you could make the argument that you could reinforce that with the dry fire practice. But if we're trying to actually develop the skill, once again, I think it's an area that we have to use extreme caution with, and really could set somebody up for failure, because they are programming their brain, right? They are developing the neural pathways, but are they doing themselves a disservice because they're building bad habits? And the only real way to know that is to be getting the actual feedback on the real targets, the real paper, or under more of realistic circumstances of using the guns.
So I believe that the Cert pistol is a great tool. I do agree with the fact that I don't want you building bad habits with any gun. Cert gun, real gun. Right? That's why when you first get into this thing, I want you in the hands of a capable instructor, right? Kind of set that platform for you. With the integration of all these, the different laser programs and things like that, I think that it can definitely help out with some training theories. And so when I say theory, I mean anything that you can discuss where you can get an understanding of the discussion, and it really doesn't have too much to do with the fact that the gun has to go bang. Like, hey, what would you do if somebody came in this room, right? Like Cert gun, right? And you can demo those things. I think force on force, right, where you don't have access to like the SIM rounds or the UTM rounds, right? That can work, right? Clearly, you just got a laser, but I mean, you can still do it. You get something that reads back on a laser. Hey, I lit up, so I'm shot, right? Whatever. So I think it's great there, and I've used them. One of the first things I used them in was a consultation about, hey, I heard you say something about like I should actually like retreat to a spot in my home and defend my family instead of me running out there looking for the bad guy, right? Like, yeah, absolutely. Cool. Well, what does that look like? So I went to this family's home. This was years and years ago. It was with a blue gun, but the Cert gun would have been better. It was with a blue gun, and that's what I armed the dad with, was a blue gun, right? And what I was watching is not only the fact that he understood, okay, based off your home, this is how you're going to move your family, and this is where you should go. But I also want to make sure that while that gun is in your hand and we're inducing stress the best way we can, did you muzzle your kids? Right? Like, what were you doing with that gun while it was in your hand? Right? So different things like that I can definitely see. Do I think that any training tool is ever going to take away the advantage or the education or information and the feedback you get from being on the range? Can't, right? And you want to make sure that if you're going to make that investment to doing those dry fire skills at home, and I often tell people this, it's weird, and I've had people give me a lot of pushback, and it's fine because it's all about discussion. Before you dry fire, you should have live fired. Because what are you dry firing practice for, right? You don't really, like, it's not there. So yeah, if you've done a lot of live fire and you want to get the Cert tool and use it, great. Another thing I've used the Cert guns for is to get people comfortable with carrying a gun, right? Because of the weight of them. So it doesn't seem like a purpose that people really use, but I do because I have different sizes of them. So I'll loan out to trustworthy students because it costs a little money. Okay, yeah, they're a little pricey. I'll loan those things out to a student that's like, hey, I don't know if I'm comfortable with carrying them, right? And we'll do the paperwork, whatever we got to do, and I'll let them put it in the holster, walk around with it, right? Get used to sitting, being with the gun. So it's a lot of advantages to it. But do I think I do agree with your point of, hey, like, what are you actually practicing with it? Because if you haven't learned it, are you just learning wrong at home for free or cheap because you're not actually going beep, beep, bang, bang? So proper application. And I often say, one of my sayings is intelligence is the proper application of knowledge, right? So how can you be gun smart if you don't have the knowledge and then know how to properly apply it, right? So great training tools. I like Cert. They sponsor me and help me out through a ton. I'm still going to tell people, make sure that you understand what you're doing. And even with the Cert pistol, even when the theories and stuff that you're going through, like, hey, what happens if somebody come in this room? Or, hey, how do I move from this spot to that spot? Or, hey, how do I work cover and concealment? And, I just want to go through the theory of the thing. I still want you to get with an instructor, right? Get with an instructor and find somebody that's going to help you develop that. So even in your theory and just body movements, not necessarily pew, pew, bang, bang, even in body movements and theories and discussions, you're not developing things that'll get you hurt.
Yeah, the guys from Cert, they've sponsored the tour many times. We know Mike, great company.
Yeah, real great, good people, good company, without a doubt. And and for what the product is, it's a great product. Like I've had Cert guns since their beginning. I did a pre-order at SHOT Show. I don't remember what year that was, but probably close to a decade ago.
You're old.
But I did a pre-order. Right? That wasn't even out yet. They had the prototypes and whatnot.
I think it was before that even.
Yeah, it may have been. But yeah, good, solid people. Let's see. Chris says that Keven should make an app called Ask the Real Knock. Q&A with voice feedback.
Thanks, Chris. I will definitely take that under advisement. Let me circle back to that.
We have any more questions coming up over there, Deryck?
Nope, I think we're all caught up. Yep.
Let me go and look over at the YouTube as well.
So is this something?
Yeah, this is actually from the live showcase today. And this is by Steiner, all right? The P4xi. This thing is a LVPO, low power variable optic. It is nice. It's 1-4, which is okay. I kind of like the 1-6, but I'm not going to argue with the 1-4 because the clarity of the glass is a good thing. But it is a nice optic. So we demoed this on some rifles still. I mean, it's just like pretty. It's actually a Steiner cantilever mount as well. So it is pretty nice, and it comes with a free throw lever, which is nice. I'm telling you, one thing I used to like really debate about the LVPOs when they really started like coming out a lot. I'm like, why are you guys making me, all the companies like, why are you making me buy the throw lever separately? Clearly, I want that, right? Like, who doesn't want the quick lever, right? But no, I really, I did like this. I got to look through this one today and really check out the clarity. It wasn't really my job today, if you will, or I didn't get the chance to actually demo this particular product, but I did get a chance to look through it. So I really like it. The glass on Steiner is clear. Clearly, they've been making products for a while now. They make them, primarily for military and law enforcement use, but good quality. I'm really addicted to LVPOs, man.
Really?
I really like them.
I was playing around with Miata Miotech 1-4 for a while.
Yep.
I do like the fact that you can, just like a regular red dot when you're at 1, both eyes open. I didn't get to play with that today, but
I'll let you touch it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, play with it now. Play with it in a couple minutes.
I'm really like, ever since like they got better, things come out and then they evolve and they get better. I'm like, wow. And it's funny because I've noticed that although I'm not old, the eyes aren't what they used to be, and kind of embracing that. Like, best piece of kit I got, I'll tell you, was prescription glasses, prescription safety glasses. Best piece of kit I got. But the LVPOs, I really like them, especially when, you started adding these quick throws, is the fact that I can go from basically, especially when they start coming with the illuminated reticles, right? And etched glass. I'm like, I got all kind of reasons I should love this thing. You turn it on, you got a red dot. Realistically, right? You got a red dot and you can maneuver around. And then if I need to adjust, I can adjust. Like, even back there, I have, the ELTech set up with that's the XPS3 ELTech. And then I have the G33 with G33 3-time magnifier. It's great as well. But, those two together, a few ounces heavier than this guy, right? So it's even lighter. Now, there's arguments for both about why you want to use one over the other, obviously. But I'm just a big fan of LPOs. I tell everybody, like, when I go I'm still having that conversation. And this is when I really have to check my bias, right? When we're trying to have the people like red dot or the scope. Everybody calls it a scope. I'm like, what do you mean? Okay, let's clear that up. You mean LVPO? And they're like, yeah, the scope. I'm like, okay. This is why I like it, but this is why the red dot is cool too, because I really have to train myself out of that. But I like these things. I like the fact that Steiner has a good quality one. There are other ones out there too, but I really like it. I'm kind of feel about these the same way people now feel about red dots. Like, this was my red dot. Like, red dots on pistols, right? Like, this was my red dot on pistols. I wasn't as excited about that. I've adapted to it. I thought it. I was the old guy, kind of like, no, okay, it's cool. I admit, right? But when these came out, I'm like, whatever that is, I want it, and I want all of them because they just work. Direct old eyes now, because man, really, I don't know what your guys' experience is, but now if you just run a standard B27 out to like 25 yards, I mean, I can see it, but if you tell me like shoot the one,
there's a one,
like, whatever, right? So I like them. I don't know. I got off on a tangent, but I'm a big fanboy of the LVPOs for a lot of reasons. I love red dot technologies as well. I think red dots have come a long way. I mean, the companies are doing great stuff now. It's just something about this concept that is awesome to me.
Cool.
We've had a couple of questions about gun choice again, choosing firearms, what's the best one for the wife, and that kind of stuff. We'll try to link to some articles that we have on PDN on choosing firearms and really, all of the information that should be looked at for that person to go out and then make their own decision, right? Mm-hmm. It's a very personal decision. They've got to be 100% involved in it. So we'll drop some links to some articles or videos that kind of discuss that in a little bit deeper than what the time will probably allow for tonight. There was another one that talked about as well that that said his wife has arthritis in her hand, so a semi-auto is impossible for her to operate. Therefore, a revolver is a better carry gun for her.
Well, I don't know the wife. And I'm going to be careful saying anything about somebody's wife. What I will say is this will be a direct product plug. Arthritis is, it's a physical thing, right? And I know it can be hurt. It can really be painful and things like that. But I would highly advise, if you haven't, what's the person's name? I want to make it personal.
Jerry.
Hey, Jerry. I would highly advise, and I'm not saying you haven't. I would just highly advise, before you give up and go that route, right? I'm not going to say like, you're wrong, Jerry. Like, you have your own reasons to come into your conclusion. I'm just going to say you should go give the 380 Easy or the 9mm Shield Easy by Smith & Wesson a try before you believe that. I can tell you that they call it an Easy for a reason, right? So go give that a try at your local gun store. Really put it in her hands. Like, make sure she goes, right? Really put it in her hands and don't like mention the pain of arthritis. Like, just go there and let her work with that gun. I would go ahead and go with the 380 if you want one that's, a little bit lighter, a little bit easier. But they call it the Easy for a reason. So give that a try before you totally like bail on semi-autos. And I know I could get into all the theory about, hey, you could absolutely get that gun in the battery and screw that. She can do it. I'm not going to do you like that, because once again, you've come to your conclusion. But before you give up, I would say at least give that one a try and have the discussion around the technology involved in that particular firearm before you bail on semi-autos altogether. So yeah, I would just say that.
I'm not going to argue with it. A lot of times, people it seems on the surface like, yeah, it needs to be a revolver because I can't rack a slide.
Right.
But what do you get with a revolver most of the time? A 14
pound
trigger pull. Yeah.
Right. So, the arthritis or pain issues are a hand issue, like rears itself in another area.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, and it's if the hand strength's not there for the semi-auto, it's probably not going to be there for the manipulation of the trigger.
Yeah, and I've heard a lot of people try to go with the theory with that. Well, they can carry it and get a double action and carry it in single action. Like, what part about that is safe, right? Mm-hmm. Like, so we don't want to do that either. But once again, Jerry, I get it. It's we've had the experience of having this type of conversation with thousands of people, right? So it seems like, hey, I'm going to go to that, but understand that the revolver is still a gun. It still takes human beings to make it work, and that human being is going to have to use a hand, and the hand is going to work hard, right? In retrospect, to really get that revolver into action. So don't just kind of bail on the idea yet. And man, you know what? It's just not fun to think that you're limited to anything. Like, I just don't even like that. Like, I don't feel limited, right? There is ways to explore that freedom, and hey, I wish you and your wife the best, but I just don't think you should bail on that concept of semi-autos.
And actually check out, there's videos on PDN talking about, what is the proper way of racking the slide. A lot of times it's just a change in technique, right? Yeah. A good overhand rack, getting the gun in tight. And all of a sudden, the person that thought they couldn't rack a slide, run a slide on a semi-auto because of strength issues, all of a sudden, wow, they can do it. And that's a great feeling for them too, when they can do something that they didn't think they could do to begin with.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for asking them.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, we're kind of coming towards the end of that hour, probably over a couple minutes at this point. Why don't you tell everybody where they can find you?
One, I appreciate you guys hanging out with us, and or I know you like these guys already. I appreciate you not hanging up because I was here. So thanks for hanging in there. And you can find me on all your social media platforms at The Real NOC. So The Real No Other Choice. The Real NOC on all your social media platforms, to include YouTube. And if you want to reach out and see all the things we're up to with all the community outreach and things like that, just simply go to nootherchoice.com. Just nootherchoice.com, all spelled out, and you can keep up with us there.
Awesome.
Well, find Deryck right here. Find him in the comments.
Find me in the comments.
Yeah.
Echo5training.com. Getting ready to start filling up the calendar again. We've hit that time of year. Barret?
Yeah, I mean, that's like you said, training calendars are really starting to book out now for the remaining of the year. Obviously, thanks to all the dedicated students that are still spending the resources to be able to get out and and train with that. You can find me on social media at Bear Code Training, or certainly bearcodetraining.com. And thanks again to Primary Arms Online, because once again, they're the sponsor of the show tonight. They made it all possible. If you haven't been over there, check it out. They really put together a fantastic website, but you're going to find that this is going to be a solid resource to be the go-to for whatever you need when it comes to firearms or accessories. Y'all have a great night.
See you guys later.